Hola clase. So we're going to see today our new topic, which is present tense. We're still in the present tense, but now we're going to see the present tense of stem changing verbs. So as a reminder, we already have seen the present tense and its uses, and we know how to conjugate regular AR, ER, and IR verbs in the present tense. Also, we already have studied how to conjugate verbs that have an irregular jaw form. And today we're going to see the present tense of AR, ER, and IR verbs that undergo a stem change. So we're going to see four categories of these verbs. First, the verbs that they have a stem change from E to IE. Then the verbs that have a stem change from O to UE. Then the verbs that have a stem change from U to UE. And then the verbs that have a stem change from E to I. So you'll have to memorize these verbs. There are not that many. You have to memorize the kind of stem change they undergo. So we're going to start first with me telling you what is the stem of a verb. Probably you already know this, but the stem of a verb is the part of an infinitive. You remember the verbs in the infinitive in Spanish, to which the subject endings are added. The stem of a verb is the one that usually never changes and is the one you take away the infinitive ending and add the subject endings for the yo form, the tú form, the él, ella form, the nosotros form, and all the other subject pronouns. So all the examples above are of regular verbs, not stem changing verbs. Now we're going to see 4 ways some verbs undergo a stem change. You have to memorize which verbs undergo this stem change and memorize which one of the stem changes they undergo. To summarize, the stem of a verb is the part of a verb that when you take away the infinitive ending and you add the subject pronouns, it usually never changes. But we're going to see verbs that they do undergo a stem change. So first we're going to do a practice. You have to identify the stems of the following verbs and write them in the blank. These are all regular verbs that we have already studied in previous chapter, so these ones that they don't undergo any stem change. Here you can check your answers. Okay, present tense of common stem changing verbs from E to IE. So we have AR verbs like comenzar, to begin, pensar, to think. We have ER verbs like querer, to want. And then we have IR verbs as preferir and venir. Preferir, to prefer, and venir, to come. So you can see this is the verb in the infinitive and they undergo a stem change. This vowel E turns into IE. Comien. So here's in the yo form, yo comienzo, tú form, tú comienzas, usted, él, ella form, comienza. Nosotros, nosotras comenzamos, vosotros, vosotras comenzáis, ustedes, ellos y ellas comienzan. Right? And all of this undergo this stem change. So as you might already notice, the nosotros and nosotras form and the vosotros and vosotras form, they don't undergo any change, right? It's the same E from the infinitive. So the vowel changes occur in all stressed syllables. Since the stress does not fall on the stem of the nosotros and vosotras form, then there is no change. So if you read this word, comenzar, comenzar, the syllable with more stress falls in the E. So here, yo comienzo, the syllable with more stress. Tú comienzas, syllable with more stress, again here. Usted, él, ella comienza, syllable with more stress. Nosotros and vosotras form. Nosotros comenzamos. Here is the syllable with more stress. It doesn't fall in the E, it falls in this syllable, in the Z and the A. Vosotros and vosotras comenzáis. Sais, that's the syllable with more stress. Ustedes, ellos y ellas comienzan. So as you can see, the syllable with more stress in the nosotros and vosotros form doesn't fall in the E, falls in the next syllable. So that's why they don't undergo any stem change. None of these verbs undergo a stem change in the nosotros and vosotros form. And then, as you can see, the verb venir, in the yo form is a very irregular form. It's yo vengo. This might remind you of the verb tener, to have. The yo form is tengo. So this verb is a little bit more irregular than the other ones because in the yo form it doesn't undergo a stem change. It undergoes a yo form change. But all the other forms, except the nosotros and vosotros, they do undergo the E to IE change. Please study these conjugations because we're going to do an exercise in the next slide. So provide the present tense forms of the verbs in the parentheses. It's the same verb, has different subjects, so you have to conjugate it according to the subject. Remember, the nosotros and vosotros form, they don't undergo any stem change. Okay, here you can check your answers. Okay, the second one are present tense of common stem changing verbs from O to UE. We have AR verbs like almorzar, to have lunch, ER verbs as volver and poder, to return, volver, poder, to be able, and IR verbs like dormir. So, as you can see, it happens the same. The vowel changes occur in all stress syllables. Since the stress doesn't fall in the nosotros and vosotros form, then they don't undergo any stem change, as you can see here. We're gonna do an exercise. Provide the present tense forms of the verb in the parentheses. Again, it's the same verb and you have to conjugate it according to the subject. Remember that in the nosotros and vosotros form, the verb doesn't undergo any change. Here you can check your answers. Okay, number 3. Present tense of common stem changing verbs from U to UE. So we just have here one, which is jugar. As you can see, it's the same. It's not irregular in the nosotros and vosotros form, just in all the other forms. We're gonna do a practice. So provide the present tense forms of the verb in the parentheses according to the subject. Here you can check your answers. Okay, number 4. Present tense of common stem changing verbs from E to I. So here we just have IR verbs like decir, to say, pedir, to ask, servir, to serve. So as you can see, the E changed to I in all the forms except the nosotros and vosotros form, as we have already said before. And also notice that the verb decir in the yo form is very irregular because it undergoes a stem change, but it also undergoes a yo form, irregular form. So decir, yo digo. Okay, we're gonna do a practice. Provide the present tense forms of the verb in the parentheses according to the subject. Okay, and here you can check your answers. Okay, and we're gonna do a last practice. So you have to select for the following verbs what stem change they undergo. A, from E to IE, B, to O to UE, C, from U to UE, D, from E to I. And then here you have the answers. Gracias.